Hello, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Lindsay Stanton. She is a certified intuitive Reiki healer, a coach, certified in somatic therapy, and the author of The Enduring and Everlasting. This is the book that's on Amazon as of now. And Lindsay is also the president of Digi-Me. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. I forgot to ask. Is a digital technology company in the human resources space that she built and ran with Roger Stanton. So this is my brief introduction to you. Of course, I have so many questions, way too many, that I have planned here and then they come in the moment. But the first question I love asking my guests is this very fundamental, basic, simple question. How would you describe yourself as of this very moment? Who is Lindsay?
That's a big question. I think it's a very different answer than it was probably 4 years ago, but
Yeah.
very open, and very much energetically aligned with love.
Yes. Love that. Yes. I have been reflecting and having a lot of conversations here on love. And I guess to talk about love, we have to kind of contrast it with something else. It's almost like we can't really, we wouldn't be able to talk about if we don't have, if we didn't have other concepts to
Right.
compare with. And I have heard that there are only two places or spaces to come from when it comes to expressing the humanness, this, which we call life, and that is fear or love. Is that something that you
100%
resonate with?
agreed. Yeah. And I am a firm believer in duality. I feel like we are frequently holding the energetics of both.
Right. So why do we experience fear even after having the realization that only love exists, or per se, love is the ground of existence? So why do we experience love? Is that because of the body, the way it is wired?
Yeah, I think we're on this human experience, this journey, and we're here for learnings. And obviously, I think as part of that, the only way we can truly learn is through things that are related to fear and pain, and that helps us tap more into love. And I feel like, to your point at the very beginning, without the two counters, we can't really truly know love. If we only had love, we wouldn't really know what it was because there'd be no difference, right?
Yes. Oh my God, Lindsay. And today I was reflecting about that for some reason. I guess because my husband said something about that somebody asked him, does she love you? Does Valeria love you? And he said, yes, I feel her love. Yes. But then I think he paused for a moment. And I was just reflecting on that because that's the only thing I lived for since I was very little. So I'm wondering if only love exists in somebody like you and I, or maybe a lot of people that I talk to, we are so connected to that energy. That's really not easy for me to say, I love you, because I know there's no you, but just love, really. There's just love. So how can I really direct that love to somebody or something when everything is resonating that energy already? I can only connect with it and become, I don't know. Does it make sense to you?
It does. I feel like we have the ability to tap into deeper levels of it. And I think when we're energetically aligned with it, because we're not always energetically aligned with it, when we're energetically aligned with it, I actually believe that it facilitates all things. Like I've noticed on my grief journey that tapping into the energy of openness, connectiveness, love helps manifestation as well. So it is all related. And even though we are all in oneness, we are each having our own unique human experiences. So we are able to contribute to the collective of love, but we also are feeling that individually as well.
Yeah. So if we are, which we are, I have to say that with capital T and with, 100%, billion% of confidence that we are infinite beings having this finite experience in bodies, which we call bodies. I don't even know if that's really accurate. So what comes to you as an answer if you ever ask the question, why do we need the experience of being in the body and then losing the body and then making these connections and then losing them? I know you mentioned growing, learning. A lot of people say that. Is that the soul's journey? I would love to hear from you a bit more about death and the soul and everything else in between.
I think it is the soul's journey. I think it's two things. I think it's our individual soul's journey and growth and experiences as a result. But I also think that each of our incarnations are helping rise the collective. I'm a big fan of Gary Zukav's work, and I 100% believe that, those of us who chose to be here during this specific incarnation are here for a reason, and it's to rise the collective. So I think it is both at the same time. I think it's, helping the collective, and us as healers specifically are here and signed up for that journey. And I think that we are also, as a result, like I can't speak to or help those and act as their guide on their healing journey if I haven't also known the suffering of grief, right? So I have to go on that journey myself to be able to hold my hand out for others.
And you also mentioned soulmates. So Roger and you were soulmates. Talk to me about that, your connection with him, and what is a soulmate?
Yeah, to me, it is like that deeper connection that we recognize, and it can be on a variety of levels. But when you meet somebody for the first time, there's like this just knowingness and soul recognition that you were together in some capacity before. And it doesn't have to be limited to romantic relationship. It can be friendship, it can be family. But there's just some times in this life experience where when you meet somebody, you know way too much about them, both like energetically as well as with your human mind. There's just this instant recognition, comfort, and it does tie to love. So to me, that's what a soulmate is. And I think, we oftentimes are with people, they could represent different relationships, but throughout lifetimes. And because of that common thread, that connective tissue that we have from those past lives, there's this just deeper connection, instant recognition, and bond that exists almost immediately as a result.
Right. Yeah. And of course, I read about it. I heard about it. I'm very interested in knowing more about that. I am very intuitive since I was very little, so I kind of have an idea of. I can feel these energies, and I'm like, wait a minute, I met this person before. Yes, and that's very clear to me. But why do we come together in one lifetime and then kind of separate again? Is that part of the lesson, Lindsay?
I really believe it is. And I know for me specifically, like just as an example, I struggled at the beginning, as I think many, many people do, when you go through the loss of why, questioning why this happened to me. Why did I have to go through this? Why him? There's always that feeling of the why. And the deeper I dove into my own healing journey, the deeper I dove into modalities that helped me along my journey that in turn now help others, I discovered the why. And the why was, without that suffering, like I mentioned at the beginning, without that suffering, without that deep, deep level of pain and connection, our love and our grief is so tied together. Without our deepest love, we don't have the deepest grief, right? So without that, I wouldn't have gone on the journey that I have, and I wouldn't have been able to assemble the tools that I have to help guide others on their journeys. And I know now that I was being called to tap into my abilities as a healer and to go deeper than I was prior to his passing. And without his passing, nothing would have forced it to that level.
Right. Yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah. For being there throughout that and letting that timeless wisdom, just flow through you and show you the way and saying yes to that calling. That's really beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because I know some of us give up. Some of us just, no, I don't want to say no to it. And you didn't. And that means a lot to me for some reason. I think I'm very devotional when it comes to life itself, doing its work. And we need to be not just strong, but ready. That's something that for some reason I've been always preparing myself to do. Okay, I'll be ready to go through suffering and then overcome it. Suffering.
And listening for the little things that can help us put one foot in front of the other. I think that's really important too.
Yeah. Everything's concepts we know, right? Because it's so much bigger than we can really express with words, what we are trying to do here. But intuition, intuition, when you say listening, is that listening to our own intuitive self? And how do we know the difference, Lindsay?
Yeah, I think it's listening to our own intuition, which is now I understand on this journey that it's listening often to our higher selves. Yeah. But I think it's listening to our guides, our angels, our loved ones on the other side. When we call on them, they are there and available to us. But we do have free will, so it requires us asking for help, asking for guidance, and then listening for the answer. So oftentimes we get so caught up in our egoic brains that we think that the message is supposed to come in a certain way, but being more open and less restrictive in how we're receiving those signs and that information.
Wow. Yes. For some reason, I love that too, because it feels very playful. This idea of not knowing one step at a time just shows you. It's almost like holding this lantern, and it just illuminates just a few meters, ahead of us. It doesn't really show the big picture.
You're so right with that. Because I think to me, the ultimate form of gratitude is coming at things with a childlike joy.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So talk to me about the journey or the process per se of listening. You have been intuitive your entire life. So I read here in your bio that you received and you sensed signs from your grandparents and family members when you were little. So, but then the spiritual journey just unfolded, really, that calling when Roger lost the body. I have to say it that way because that's the only thing we lose. And hopefully we're not too attached to it. But talk to me about those signs. How, I know you wrote a book. I want to mention that too. I didn't mention at the beginning. So The Enduring and the Everlasting. And you, I didn't read the book. So did you mention that? Did you actually went into details when it comes to those communication and signs?
Yes. So the book is really a guide. And I knew the book is definitely channeled, but I knew when I was channeling the book, because I literally couldn't physically keep up in writing the pages as they were coming through to me. And so often the language wasn't consistent with how I speak either. But it was very intentional the way it was channeled. So the first section is kind of an insight into who we are, who we were here in the physical world. And then just to give people an understanding of our relationship. And then the second section is information on kind of the signs, communication, dream visits. I've gotten so much messaging from him really on a daily basis since he passed about 4 years ago. And then the third section is really a how-to guide to help people to be able to build that connection and communication system on their own. And it even goes through a sample day of how I tap more into my connectedness with him, and also very much how it helped me survive, because, you mentioned, your journey and your thoughts, suicidal ideation. I think that's always in play, whether we admit it or not. When we're dealing with deep grief, it's just a reality. And so, understanding how my connectiveness could help and does help others to be able to put one foot in front of the other, because early days, that is 100% what it's about.
Wow. So for those, I have to say this first. So for some reason, this has been an interesting, almost like invitation for me doing the podcast like this. getting deeper into it in the sense of marketing and expanding so everybody would get access to these messages. And that was because I met a woman in New York City. I was walking in somewhere on Long Beach, and she was sitting on the bench, and those benches that have some signs, they allow you to imprint like the
Mm-hmm.
a little signs of people who have passed, and her daughter had passed. So, and she was in a state of grief, of suffering that was just beyond my understanding when I came across her. And that had been 10 years, and she was still like in this deep sorrow. So I would love for you to give us an example. What would are the signs different for everyone, or there are some similar signs, common signs that they share when communicating?
I'm smiling because the answer is both. Um,
Right, right.
so, I mean, there are some common threads 100%. And often, like, I mean, really what I'm doing is helping them tap into what they already know, recognizing and trusting what they already know is so much of what I do as I guide people on their journey, helping them with tools that really open them to be able to recognize what they're already getting. And back to the childlike joy piece, I really encourage clients to, first of all, document everything that they're getting from a signs and messages perspective, because it gives them something to come back to. And that's
Right.
really important when you do have those deep, dark moments, because no matter how much time has passed, you know, what our concept of time here in the physical realm is different. And no matter how much time has passed, we're always going to have that experience of grief and loss of not having that person physically here. And so
Right.
having written down and documented signs and messages that you get is a truth that you can come back to that does tap you more into the energy of joy. And so that's really, really important. And then also just helping them to recognize how available it is to them.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're
Yeah.
waiting for us, just like the angelic realm. They're waiting for us to call on them. They want to be present. They're around us. They're sending us love. They're sending us opportunities. They're sending us abundance. They want us to call on them. So understanding that and then helping people tap into that is so important, because I mean, I always say that it's kind of like teaching somebody how to fish versus, you know, serving them fish. I mean, I love that
Mm,
analogy because it
mm,
is so, so
yeah.
true. And what I think is so great about the work that we're doing as healers is the more you do it, the more you receive. And so the more signs and the energy of signs and communication you tap into, the more you receive. And I noticed that early in my journey, the more I was present with it, the more that I recognized it, acknowledged it, and expressed gratitude for it, the more I
Yeah.
got. So, I mean, it is like they want to bring us joy. They want us to be happy here and the rest of our time in this incarnation. So they're going to help you to be able to do that. And they do that through signs and communication with you.
Wow. Yes. What are some examples? I guess I want to get to that. Could you give us some practical examples of a sign that we can kind of clearly see and not be afraid of it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different types of signs, but they love to use anything that is related to energetic waves. So that's why a
Ah,
lot of times you'll see like butterflies or hummingbirds or any type of bird or animal love to like manipulate the vibration, and those are easy signs for them to send us. Same thing with electronics. I've gotten so many signs through my phone, it's not even funny. Whether it's like
ah,
an article popping up with messaging he was trying to get to me, literally a text message, a phone call. I mean, I've had so many things. Hawks are a regular one for me because he heavily associated here in the physical world with birds of prey. So
ah,
I get hawks in the craziest of situations where you would never see a hawk. And I think
mm,
early on, if
yeah.
you know you're struggling with trust, like noticing those things that are very out of the ordinary, out of place. Like I was at the dentist office one time, and it was Christmas time, and I was struggling, and this song came on. They would have been
Mm,
playing all Christmas music, but this one song came on, and literally every single lyric were like an expression to me, a message to
Yes.
me that had nothing to do with Christmas. I mean, the song stood out like a sore thumb because it had nothing to do with anything else playing. But I think things like that, when that happens, trusting your first instincts, instead of
Mm,
questioning it, ad nauseum, like trusting in it. If you felt it, like you mentioned feeling things in your body, I feel things very much in my body. And if your first instinct is, or you think of someone immediately when that comes through, that's what it is. Just trust it.
mm. We have created this reality here based on the rational mind, right? Like it's very scientific in that sense of facts, and we don't really trust anything that's not science based. But science, we see that we have enough evidence to know with near death experience and in so many others, reincarnation. We have those studies are everywhere. Those
Yeah.
signs are everywhere. So we cannot ignore that that's true. But then bringing that closer to us, to our own lives, that's a different, let's say, that's a different calling. And some people say that it's not for them. I have met people, especially my family members, that that's not something they don't want to hear about it. They actually are afraid of it. They don't want to have communicate with anybody who is not in the body, that because I see the level of fear. So how would you explain that fear? Where it's coming from? Are we disconnected with our own who we are? Because that's what we are actually, not even who.
Yeah, that's not my lived experience, but I understand that that's where some people are at in
Yeah.
their journey. I think just knowing that you can set boundaries and that you can restrict and invite in. I'm a firm believer that, there's positive energy, and I don't believe in like negative energy and forces.
Uh,
But
yeah.
I do think that if you are concerned about that, you can set boundaries. You can add like whether you say prayers or
Mm.
if, you just speak, different words to the universe, God, source, whoever you identify with as kind of a larger power to set parameters around what you're inviting in. And maybe it is only your loved ones, but I think that when, on the flip side, when we can really open ourselves up, there's just so much beauty we can experience as a result. And it takes you to a place of awe.
Mm. Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times that I have experiences where I'm just like gobstopped, just in awe.
Yes,
Like
I can imagine.
it's truly a miracle, and it happens over and over again. And what a gift, what a beautiful gift that they can give us constantly.
Yes. Yes. I love that. You see, it's almost like a childlike kind of mind. We are tapping into that spiritual mind. And some people call the heart or the soul. Are they the same one and the same, Lindsay? The heart and the soul?
I think they are. I think in our limited human language, they are.
Right. So, what would be a session with you, for example? What would that be like? Do you do meditations?
I start with, and before every session, I meditate myself just to invite in
Yeah.
whatever angelic energy, whatever loved ones on the other side are trying to make their way through to help provide that person healing. And I really consider myself a guide and a conduit for
Mm.
the healing that's meant for them. So I love to explore with them kind of where they're at, where they're looking to get to, what their goals are, with connection and healing. And there are so many similarities I've learned along my journey. There's so many parallels between the path that people grieving go on and those dealing with trauma. And I
Mm.
really
Yeah.
actually firmly believe that grief is, in many ways, a form of trauma. And so much of the healing tools that work for me and that I use with my clients are related to that. So they might have traditionally been used for more trauma type of healing, but I find that they very much resonate. But I love to incorporate visualization, meditation. I
Yeah.
love to do Reiki healing, which I do not consider myself a medium, but I would tell you I've been through a lot of mediumistic messages during those sessions
Yeah.
and a lot of energetic healing as a result. And then because I am trained in somatics, I firmly believe that our energetic our energetic connection through our chakra points is very much layered in with our physical body. So I try to help with the healing both in the physical form as well as the non-physical, because they feed on each other. So once you've cleared out chakras, you open the pathway to be able to provide for more physical felt experiences with healing, and vice versa, because we hold so much in our bodies. So when we can release things, both from our physical body as well as from our energetic body and our chakras, it just opens the pathways for so much deeper healing and joy as a result.
Yes, yeah. So, I was about to ask about mediumship because, I had this sense that you did that too, but you don't mention that. I don't see. You actually don't mention, but that's part of it, of course.
It is.
And then you also do dream visits. How does it work? What is dream visits?
So I'm helping others tap in to be able to receive that type of messaging. I get so many dream visits that I almost feel a little guilty, but it is such a beautiful thing. Dreams are just an easier pathway for the other side to connect with us. When we're sleeping, we don't have up the blocks. Our egoic mind isn't creating all the question marks. So it can just be a faster, easier pathway for them to initiate contact and communication with us. And I have experienced phenomenal healing as a result of dream visits. I mean, integration with things that if you had told me, you could tell me the same thing over and over again in the physical form, and I'd be like, oh, okay. But experiencing a dream visit, and it's literally like a cellular absorption of the information. And it creates this deeper knowingness that I think is just a phenomenal conduit to healing.
Gosh, yes, because we are more open, and you're right. You mentioned the ego, it gets in the way. So how would you describe the ego? Because everybody has a different idea of what that is, the false self and what it does. What is the definition for the ego?
For me, the egoic mind is just very much tied to the material world and all things related to the material world. I mean, it's necessary for our survival, right? But it's always try to take it offline, at least a decent amount.
Yes. So it's very much preoccupied and operating in the physical reality. Yes. Trying to find all the answers here, right? Of happiness, joy, and peace, right? Which is not really, it can never be done. That's one of the things that the egoic mind here tried for so long to get, to that place of happiness, doing the things that it was trying to do, but no.
Yeah.
So dream visits, I want to go back to that again. I have another question. So this is something that you teach your clients to tap into, how, through meditation?
Great question. Meditation, visualization. Visualization is our waking state that is as close as you can get to a dream visit, because I firmly believe that, and I've been shown that visualizations are a way of us kind of tapping on their door on the other side. So when we have a visual experience with our loved one on the other side, for example, we are very much present with them. Our higher selves and their higher selves are present together. And so that does help open the door for a dream visit.
Yes, visualizations. Yeah. Oh, I love that too. I heard about lucid dreams. Is that similar? Is it the same thing?
Yes, it's crazy. Like there are so many times I'll have a dream within a dream, and I recognize and know my physical self in the dream, and then I recognize that I'm dreaming within the dream. Like there's just so many layers to it. The more you tap into it, there's so many layers to it.
Yeah. And it is amazing, isn't it, Lindsay, to just kind of wake up. And that's why we have the term awakening when it comes to spirituality, because then you know what is real and what's not real. So from where you are now, what would you say is real? What is 100% real, if not to say 1,000,000,000% real as of this moment?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that the things I think are most real now are completely opposite of material world and the physical realm. The most real things are that energy, the energy of love, and that we are all a high energy frequency, that the physical realities that we think are in front of us are nothing but really a dream. I think we almost have it reversed, honestly.
Yes. So, gosh, more questions for you. Let me see. Talk to me a bit more about the book. So, The Enduring and Everlasting, a personal story of love transforming deep grief. And also the what would be healthy grieving? What is that picture? Even if they are trying to do that without the assistance of being in contact with the loved ones and on the other side, what would that look like from those who are not yet ready to tap into
Right.
that realm?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is just showing yourself grace, recognizing there's no time limit on
Yeah.
feeling the things that you feel. And we have a horrible habit as a society of putting time limits, restrictions, expectations on people that are grieving that are unrealistic. Your life has now, changed in this
Yes.
incarnation for the remainder of it. And so just giving yourself grace and accepting that and knowing that if it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it is 100% normal and
Uh-huh.
acceptable to be grieving. That is just, it's okay. And once you set that expectation, I feel like it gets rid of a lot of the overwhelm that can layer on
Yes.
top of grief that makes
Yeah.
it even darker and harder to get out of. And so it just releases that and allows you to kind of show yourself a deeper level of self care as a result.
Yes. Yes. So, gosh, we're almost at the end. I want to mention your services just so much. So you offer your book, The Enduring and Everlasting, that's on Amazon, one-on-one coaching, intimate group coaching, traumatic grief session, pre-recorded sound healing. I love that. Traumatic grief seminar, joint healing, and EFT session, healing, energy healing mini session, corporate healing, and wellness workshop. Everything's on your website, thesoulrevival.com, and you're also on Instagram, the
I
Healing
am
Grief
very
Guide.
active.
Did
Yes.
I miss anything?
I don't think so. Um, I am very active on Instagram. I go on every Wednesday at noon Central and talk
Yeah.
about topics related to this. I frequently have different guests that are spiritual
Mm,
healers as well. So,
yeah.
definitely a great spot to check me out and just see if my energy aligns with you and your goals. If you feel like I would be a great guide for you, I would welcome the opportunity to work with you.
Yes. Thank you so much again. So all this will be on the podcast notes, Lindsay's Instagram handle, and they'll be clickable too, so it's much easier, and the website as well. Everything will be there. I want to thank you again for being you, true to you, meaning that the real you, and also for the courage to do what you do, to saying yes to that calling. I know it's not easy. And the journey itself. I mean, you just said yes to everything, and now you're passing on that gift to others. It's just truly, truly beautiful. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We'll talk again, but I do have a last question for you that I ask everybody. It's this is titled "The Freedom to Feel for a Reason." I just mentioned the freedom, what my ideas are, but how do you see this concept of freedom, perhaps within the human experience and outside the human experience? What is to be free to you?
I think that you just got to it when you complimented me. Honestly, I think living our authentic selves and
Mm,
being in truth with who we truly are is what freedom is all about.
yes, gosh, yes, a billion times to that. And a prayer in a way to that vision that we can all have the courage to do that. Say yes to the authentic self and go from there. It's just such a beautiful journey. Thank you again, Lindsay, for your presence in this
Thank
reality.
you.
Thank you. Bye for now.